Okay, so I think this is the first time you've paid for the service from me. So what we'll do is we'll watch the video in just regular time, and I probably won't comment too much on it, and then we'll watch it again, and I'll slow it down, and that's when I'll do the analysis. Look at you run. Nice job. Okay, so now we're going to slow it down and we'll analyze it. The beginning was pretty straightforward. 1, 2, 3. You ran on the right side of the dog walk, which I think that was the best handling option there to make sure you got the right tunnel. Whoops. Okay, so your dog comes out of the tunnel. Now, and I have to say, I don't know who you've trained with before, and it's not a criticism or anything, but I have a pretty strict system that I follow, and it's kind of all that I know, and so what I'm going to be telling you is based on that system, and it may be different from what you have learned or have been taught to do, but it's sort of all I know. So I guess, you can take it or leave it. Okay, so this course, from this part where you are through this section of jumps here, was like definitely the most challenging part of this course. So the dogs came out of the tunnel right where you are, and they had to go to this jump, but then they had to cut back to the A-frame. And you chose to be on that side, which is fine. I don't think there's any problem with being on that side, but let's see how you cue that jump, because it looks like you do like some clapping and stuff to call your dog. See, now you're clapping. And I can't see your dog because of the judge, but it looks like he went a little wide because he is sort of cutting back to the A-frame. So with the system that I follow, because okay, so you put him in the tunnel and you have like a split second where you're sort of waiting for him to come out. If you wanted to be on that side of the A-frame, then I probably would have positioned myself right at that stanchion, and then instead of where you are now, and then when the dog was where he is now, when he's about ready to take, this is like the stride before he's going to take off, but you would have been like right here at the stanchion, then you could have pulled away. Because what happens when you stay sort of farther away from obstacles is your motion doesn't mean as much, because your motion isn't as dramatic, if that makes sense. And our motion, the direction that we're traveling, is the strongest cue that we have for our dogs. Okay? Verbals, hands, trained things like left and right, whatever, those are all secondary to motion. So whatever direction you're moving in is a primary cue for your dog. And when your dog took this jump, you were pretty much standing still, but your shoulders are sort of facing this way, okay? And here he is, right here, he's lifting off. So by the time your dog lifts off, he can't do anything about how he's going to land. So if you look at you right here, okay, you can see he's about ready to take off. your shoulders are sort of facing this way. You are starting to pull this way, but it's pretty slight. And so when he takes off, there's nothing he can do, and I can guarantee you that he thought he was supposed to go to the dog walk based on your presentation here. In general, they need to know the stride before they take off if they're going to change direction, because once they take off, they can't do anything about where they're going to land. Okay? But you clap and you sort of pull and you get him, and he takes it. He takes the A-frame. And then he's like, "What are you doing?" So here you have some bobbles, okay? And I don't know what he's supposed to do on the contact. I don't know if he's supposed to come down and do like a nice 2-on 2-off. I don't know what your criteria is, but if that is what he's supposed to do, it looks like he sort of came down and he's sort of started to do that. Then you should mark that if he's not doing it, just like with an uh-oh or, you know, some verbal something. He seems like a pretty nice, honest dog, so I don't think it needs to be dramatic, but, you know, just something. And I can already tell by your position that you would have a hard time getting this yellow jump, because you can even see on this video, to get this yellow jump, you pretty much needed to be standing here at the triple, or, you know, be out this far from the triple, so you could run a line like this to get the yellow. And this was actually a pretty tricky part of the course, the standard course. And I saw a lot of dogs and handlers have trouble with this part, small dogs and large dogs, which is kind of interesting. So to be on the side that you're on, you pretty much needed to be able to run out here when they were on the A-frame and then run this way. Okay, so you can see where you are now. You're going to have to come out and then go back this way. And that's sort of where you have problems. Well, you have problems, first of all, because he doesn't stop. But see now, here you are. So you get him to come back, and now you're wanting to run, but he's sort of facing you, and then when you go to move, he turns, and the first thing he sees is a table. So that's why, you know, he heads that way. He was a good boy for doing that, because inadvertently you were cueing that. And then you get him back here, and you're pulling him around you like this, which is going to cause him to take the triple like that. And see, and you can even see how your path is sort of like that. And see how he's taking the triple like this, and then you're going to have to push him back. And he does it because he's a nice, honest boy. He does it. Okay, so now he takes us off course. And the reason he takes the off course is because, remember what I said earlier, they have to know where they're going, if they're changing direction, the stride before they take off, because once they start to take off, they can't do anything about how they're going to land. And if they're taking off thinking they're going one direction, but you're really thinking they're going another direction, border collies will usually just go in the direction they think they were supposed to go. So here he is in the air. Okay, here's his stride right here before he takes off. And everything about you is forward. Your shoulders are forward, your motion is forward, you have your inside arm up, the arm closest to the dog out. Here he is taking off, and you're just starting to rotate. So he lands long, and now you're putting on the brakes and clapping. But he's like, no, you pretty much cued me to go forward. Okay, so I hope you can see that. He's a good boy. So then you get him back on track. Now here you have a little problem because you don't fully move to this jump, and this jump was a little tricky because it has no wings, okay, and wingless jumps are always a little bit more tricky because they're not as visually obvious to the dog, I guess. And plus, this was tricky because everybody was worried that the dogs were going to go jump weave when they needed to go jump teeter. So everybody was sort of overworking this jump because the weaves and the teeter were really close to each other. So you get him off the table, but see, you pull away before he's committed. I'll show it in slow motion again so you can see it. But he starts to head to the jump, but then you pull away. And my guess is that you're calling him as well. So you weren't even really committed to that jump, if that makes sense. He's a really, really honest dog, Dawn, okay? And he's quite a bit different from your other dog. So you can trust him, and you need to learn to trust him a little bit more, okay? And then the end is fine. You do the weaves, and then you just take off and you run as fast as you can, and it's great. So overall, I mean, he's a nice dog, he's honest, he's going to do what you tell him to do. So just, you know, be conscientious and don't overwork things, because he's pretty much going to do what you tell him to do. Okay? Thanks.